I'm just so excited you guys are here. So I've been working with a mentor for the last several months, couple of years actually, and she has challenged me to take a leap and do something a little challenging. And so I've had this message in my heart, really. It's just been developing. Can you hear me? Okay. It's been developing over the last 9 years, you guys. Just some things that have been helping, just helping with the craziness and the chaos of life. And so I want to start, before we start, I just want to thank David for this. Isn't this totally legitimate? I mean, totally legit. I got this little thing here, and I'm excited. Anyway, okay. So I used to just really struggle a lot with anxiety because chaos, right? And let's see. The Savior said, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. And what I think is so interesting is this is really what all of us want. We really want more abundant life. We want more better relationships, our finances to be great, money, health, all those things. And we're inundated with all this information about how to have abundant life. But the crazy thing is there's more sad people on the earth. Have you guys noticed that? A lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of suicides and things. And over the last little while, I've just started to realize why that is. With all this information that we're inundated with, I think sometimes we can ask ourselves, how can we know the way? That's what Jesus' disciples said. How can we know the way? And even having the gospel, I feel sometimes like I'm living the gospel, but why am I not feeling this joy that we're supposed to have as members of the church? So, in 2009, as you know, we just went through a recession. We were in the middle of the recession. We had just bought a home. We were struggling with that choice because that made things harder financially. I had some health issues that came up out of nowhere and really were hard. We had stuff going on in our home because we're human, like you guys. It was just a really hard time. It was a really hard time. And backing up just a little bit, I am all about this. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but since I was young, I've just wanted to know what it takes to be successful. And I'd watch people and they seemed to just know what to do. And I didn't. I just really seemed to struggle. So I just read a lot, but in 2009, I remember the Deseret book catalog coming through the mail with the new lineup of self-help books. And I remember I was angry. I remember just storming out the door and just saying, I remember the words of that Christmas song. In despair, I bowed my head. Gosh, I wasn't planning on this. In despair, I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said. And I remember thinking, well, if the gospel's not the answer, what is? Well, the next year, 2010, I call it my Lazarus year. I felt like the Lord took me by the hand and began to teach me things. And what he taught me was, I wanted to be a great creator. Elder Uchtdorf said, we're children of the great creator, and we're creators, and I wanted to do that. And I learned that right here in this little mental space is kind of like our office. It's an office space, a mental office where we do all this work of creating. And if you don't know how to run the office, it's a mess. And I didn't know how to run the office. I was terrible at it. Some people, like Emily, she just came wired this way. She's an organized thinker. I'm not. I was creative, like throw things together, make a dress out of fabric that's lying around. We don't need a pattern. Let's just make it. Let's make a Barbie doll swimming pool in the ground with plaster of Paris, and let's just do it. And so that was kind of my mindset. That's how I operated, which doesn't work really well when you have to adult, I found. So, the Lord took me by the hand, and He began to help me understand how things work and how He creates and how to do things in a better way. And He gave me a very, very simple pattern. And so I'm excited. I'm super excited to share that with you. He taught me about His pattern of creation. So let's see. So before, so patterns, right? Patterns help us do things better. I'm gonna try this. Before I tell you about the pattern, I want to show you how important patterns are. So we're gonna see if we can make this technology work. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Grace. I forgot about this. So I made a little handout, and we've got pens. So if there's something you want a note or something like that, you can just take notes. I've sort of put down the rough outline, but if you want to just write notes or whatever. Awesome. Okay. All right. So we're going to do a little exercise here. Have you guys ever seen this? Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, we're going to play a game, and I'm going to give you a minute to find the numbers 1 through 60. They're just kind of randomly on that page. Ready, set, go. Go. How's that? Fun?
Okay.
Feeling kind of like real life?
Wait, how high did they get?
I got 33.
33.
Okay.
That's 12.
33? Anybody 12?
For a while, I took my 2.
Anybody 40s, 30s? No? Okay. All right, now I'm going to give you guys a pattern that will help you to navigate through this little fun exercise. Okay, these numbers are actually organized in quadrants. And number 1 starts in this corner, and then you'll move around clockwise. And the next number is in the next quadrant. And you'll just go clockwise until you find them all. So, got it? Okay. All right. Let's see if you can do a little better this time. you guys do?
Sorry.
Much better. Double, over double. Yeah.
Okay. So, what was the difference? Was the pattern, wasn't it always there? It was really always there. Yeah, yeah. Instead of your eyes jumping all over the page, searching frantically, there was a pattern. The thing is that the pattern was always there. It was always there. I just made you aware of the pattern, right? So this is what really happened to me in 2010. I started to become aware of the pattern that God uses to create. And it's mind-boggling how simple it is. It's crazy. So tonight, I'm going to talk to you, I'm just going to teach you 3 things. There's a lot to learn, but I'm going to teach you 3 things to give you a basic framework of how the Lord creates. And I used to wonder, I don't know, in the temple when we watch the creation video, I think, well, that's lovely. But why do we do that? And now I know why. It's because the Lord wants us to know how he creates so we can feel peace. So we're not racing around like we were in that exercise. So we feel peace. So, okay. In Doctrine and Covenants it says, "And again I will give unto you a pattern in all things, that ye may not be deceived. For Satan is abroad in the land, and he goeth forth deceiving the nations." So the Lord wants us to have these patterns. Are there patterns of like, hey, this brings happiness that aren't true? Absolutely. Satan sends all kinds of deceptive messages. Okay. So with that, I want to start. Okay, the first thing I learned in 2000 was that God creates with a calm mind. Can you imagine the Savior of the world racing around, texting and driving, or yelling at people because he's so stressed out? I can't. He doesn't. He creates with a calm mind. And so this word keeps coming up, and I think it's a perfect word, frenetic. Frenetic, because we love to do this, Webster's thing, so I'm going to just do it. Frenetic means fast and energetic in a rather wild and uncontrolled way. See if any of these things resonate with you, how you feel about your life. Frantic, wild, frenzied, hectic, feverish, intense, turbulent, tumultuous, and confusing. Isn't that a great word? Do you feel like that sometimes? Yeah, totally. So one of the things, the things that the Lord started teaching me, is crazy how the Lord will just point you to different books. I mean, there were things in the scriptures, but there were other things. Like somebody said, every time I see this book, I think of you. This is not an advertisement for this book, but this book, it's just like a book of the season, the whole year, and all the wonderful little simple things that can bring you joy. Like just the tang of tomato soup on a cold winter's day, or listening to the sound of rushing water, or, I don't know, children's laughter, or whatever. The kids would go to school, and I would make a little breakfast tray, and I would read this, one little entry every day. And what I didn't realize is that what I was doing is called mindfulness. Have you guys heard of that term? It's like, no one ever heard of that before, but now it's everywhere because people are searching for how to calm down. So I started learning about mindfulness. Another thing, I was on the library website, and the Spirit said, that one, about this book. I don't even golf. I don't golf. In fact, the only time I have, it was a joke. It was terrible. But there's a certain mindset involved with golf, right? You have to calm down. You have to be in the moment. So there's all these things we can learn about how to quiet down our minds, because that's how God creates. So I started, have you guys ever had the experience of where things are so crazy and you can't sleep at night and you need to write down all the things that you have to do? And maybe if you do that, you're going to tip over the edge and really just be a hot mess. There was one day where I just thought, no, I can't write it down or I will really have a panic attack. And that's like sometimes funny, but like real too. And the Spirit said, just go outside and do nothing. And it was like, nothing? I don't have time to do nothing. But sitting there in that moment and just noticing the way the sunlight caught this dandelion sitting in the yard. There were a few dandelions. But it was beautiful. I mean, and the wind and just being there. The craziest thing happened. It was, everything began to quiet down. It's kind of like a snow globe when you set it down and it all settles, and I could see things clearly. And I didn't know everything to do, but I knew the next step. And I think it's kind of like taking a clean sheet of paper. It just gives a chance for the Lord to speak to you. Have you guys, I don't know, have you ever had that experience? Okay, so I just learned this thing, be still. And so I actually, from the things, God creates with a calm mind. From the things I started studying, and there's some great books out there about meditation that don't have to do with incense burning and the lotus position and all that stuff. Because really meditation is just quieting down the mind and directing it, like directing the mental office. And so from all these things I learned, I developed this little acronym, be still, that helps me when I'm in that place and I'm running around. I just do this. And be still means to me to stabilize, tune in, listen, and love. So how many of you have ever watched a home movie and it's like hard to watch because whoever was filming it was not really focusing in on the moment? Okay, I think sometimes life is like that. It feels like a crazy home video. David actually has a handheld stabilizer. And then when he puts his phone on it and he videos, it just makes it really smooth. And it's great. So when I think of stabilize, I think of just quieting down all those, the talking that we do in our head and maybe all the tabs we have open. and just shutting down those tabs and just calming down. You know, as part of that, I wasn't even thinking about that till just now, but breathing. Have you guys heard of breathing? And like, forever I heard how important breathing is, deep breathing. And it just seems so quaint to me. Until I heard this story, and it made me totally think about breathing differently. Just breathing. Okay, so normally when we're stressed out, we start getting this shallow breathing, and it's just right up here. You know, it's just right up here in the top of our chest. But if we can belly breathe, and maybe you guys want to practice this at home, I actually have this little video that talks about what the military calls tactical breathing. They teach you just how to breathe from your belly. And yes, I have one, and I'm going to just show it to you now. But you just breathe in a way that expands your belly. And you breathe out. You breathe in, And the military does something called box breathing. And essentially it's breathe out or breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, release it for 4, and then hold it for 4. I'll send you the video. The guy who does it is much better explaining. But just the simple active breathing, actually these people that are on the front lines, like paramedics and the military and people that just help with the healthcare industry, they teach them this thing called tactical breathing. because it's more than just a quaint little thing. And what it does is it relaxes your fight or flight response. Your brain sends a message out to all of those organs that are in freak out mode and calms them down. This is the coolest story. I got to share this with you. Okay, so a Marine, 26-year-old Marine, was serving in Afghanistan while the war was raging, and he was driving in this tank, this MRAP, Mine Resistant Armor Protected Vehicle. But they hit a landmine, and instantly he knew he was in a lot of danger and there had been a lot of damage. And he looked down, and his legs were severely fractured. He could see through the torn clothing that he had bone and muscle, and that he was in trouble. And so he began this tactical breathing exercise because that's what he'd been trained to do. So while he did that, it gave him the presence of mind to wrap a tourniquet around his legs and give direction to his team. And he had the presence of mind to do all these things, and then he passed out. Had he not done that, he was told that if he hadn't done that, he would have bled out relatively quickly and died. So just breathing. I mean, it's crazy. Just breathing can slow down all of those systems in the body that create havoc. So, okay, breathing. Stabilize. Okay. Okay, so stabilize and then tune in. Tune in is, for me, being present, being in the moment, maybe just tuning in and like actually looking at someone when you're talking to them instead of thinking about other things. Just being present with them. And, especially as members of the church, like tuning in to hear the Spirit. And, okay, so listen. I like the word listen to describe just using all of my senses, listening with my eyes and my ears and all my senses and being alive, actually getting out of autopilot and feeling alive. And then this last thing, in meditation, they actually have something called loving kindness. There's a whole little piece on it, because can you feel peaceful when you are angry at yourself or angry with somebody else? It's hard. It's hard. So there's that little piece that just, when I'm trying to be still, just might have to work on forgiving someone or being a little more compassionate to myself. Okay. So, okay. Elder Patrick Kieran, can someone read that? I'm doing way too much talking. Rob, you got a big voice. Would you mind reading that?
A segment of time when we can be still, quiet, and removed from our busyness will help recenter us, refocus our priorities, and bring us back into a position to receive and feel the messages our Heavenly Father wishes to send us.
Okay, thanks. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Love that. So in 2010, I really just learned to reconnect with wonder. Instead of focusing on the things on the checklist and I'll feel joy when I've checked them off, I just started to connect with wonder again. Okay. The second thing I learned is that God creates systematically. He has a building plan that makes things go like clockwork. So how many of you guys, I know the Ross Kellys built their own home. When you built your home, there's a process involved, right? You don't just, hey, let's grab some lumber and let's just throw it together, like the way I used to be. He actually creates systematically using a building plan. So the first step is that he spiritually created the earth, right? So when we go to build a house, we look at pictures. We go to an architect, and the architect creates a rendered drawing. We have a really clear picture. Oh, yeah, you guys built too. We have a really clear picture of what we're building. And we can't just take that to the construction site. We actually need a plan. So the Lord creates a plan every time he creates something. Ever heard of the plan of salvation? Yeah, he always comes up with a plan. Okay, the third thing is he creates physically. We'll go down. Let's go down and create. Okay? And then the last step is that he rests and evaluates whatever he's created. And what happens is, I'm going to just draw it out here. It's really a cycle, like the game we played. It's really a life cycle. So there's spiritually creating, planning, physically. But what happens is it happens in cycles, right? Or periods of creation. So we're going to go around like that. Ooh, sorry. That's not pleasant. So, as the Lord step by step created through each period, he said, let's go do this. It looks like this. Here's the plan. Let's go down. And then he evaluated it, called it good. And what that does, okay, I better hold off. I'm getting excited. Okay, he does it. It's a life cycle. So just like our game, it helps us to do things in order. And so God creates like clockwork. It literally is like a clock. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Okay, so without this kind of organization, we get unpredictable results. So I'm going to show you a video of some these are really hardworking boys. So sometimes you just think if we work hard enough, things will go great. Let's find out what happens when you don't have organization.
How about that, huh, Lim? Surprise?
You guys don't mean to tell me you built this all by yourself?
Yeah. Including scratching the lumber. We didn't even use nails in some places. We tied knots.
Well, fellas, I don't know what to say except that, well, it's just absolutely amazing.
Lem, the guys want you to be the first one through the front door.
Oh.
Yeah. Come on. Look what's inside, man. All you have to do is give the secret knock, like this.
Okay. Look out, fellas. Come on. Get back.
What's going on?
I guess one of your knots must have slipped, huh?
Yeah.
Well, guys, that was a pretty good practice, Cabin. Now, what do you say we build a real one, huh?
Great. That was totally me. That was totally me. Let's just slap it together and it'll work. Because they don't want failures like this in business, they've actually created something called project management. Any of you heard of that? Oh, I'm not big. Okay. That's the true statement. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so they've actually created project. How many of you have project managers at your work? Yeah, it's a thing now, right? Because life is moving so fast. We got to orchestrate the process of creation. So when you create new products or new programs or whatever, you need a project manager. And guess what? I mean, it looks just like Heavenly Father's plan of creation, right? So I think this is so interesting. And this is where I started just learning about project management for the unofficial project manager. Because guess what? We're all project managers. Heavenly Father's put us in charge of our lives, and He's going to work with us. He's the program manager. We get to be the project manager. So He's going to help us. Let's see. Okay. And again, things happen through several iterations, line upon line. And that's really how we're creating our lives. Heavenly Father just works with us, line upon line, to create this awesome finished product that will be someday. So, okay, you guys already do this project management instinctively. You know you do. Like when you go to the grocery store, and maybe you look at a recipe or something on Pinterest, and you see the picture, and you start the process. You create a list or something. You're planning. You go to the store. You're executing. And then before you leave the store, did I get everything? And you just go through this process. So the thing is, we do this. We think this way. But life goes better if we're actually more aware of the process. So I started applying this to everything. And if this sounds like, oh my goodness, that is a lot of thinking. Think about this. When you first started driving a car, how focused and how much thinking did you have to do? A lot. You were hyper-focused probably and thinking about everything, but now, like, you probably drove over here and weren't really thinking about everything. And I can get somewhere from A to B without thinking about it. And so really this is becoming second nature to me the more I learn it. Like I said, some people just think this way, like Emily. They just come wired. Annette, you're another one. Just think this way in a really organized way. For those of us that didn't come that way, this was like life-changing for me because I could actually be more organized. Okay, the third thing that I learned is that God creates through seasons. God still uses the creative pattern. He still uses it year after year, right, to recreate the earth. And each of those phases of creation are called seasons. Did you ever think about that? It's pretty cool. You'll see the pattern of project management or creation everywhere, but it's called different things. Like, in business it's called project management. In golf it's called see the shot, plan the shot, make the shot, and then evaluate. It's everywhere. So it's called different things. Like in nature, it's called conception, development, delivery, and rest. They have different names, but I just like to call them seasons. A season is an interval of time. So each of these phases is connected with a season, right? Okay, let's see. Everything's created through 4 seasons of growth and development. So if I want to plant a garden, I go out and I get a picture of what I want to plant in my garden. And within those seeds, within this little seed, is a plan, a DNA plan that will begin to unfold as I start to initiate the process. And then, so spring, I'll just write it up here. So, okay, I'll look here. Okay, so spring, summer, fall is when we start to see the fruits of our labors. And we keep nurturing it. And then eventually, after that, we rest. And this is another thing that I learned that was so important about the process of seasons, is this little rest phase right here, the world does not honor very much. It's go, go, go. And that's really how I was. It was like, I'm just going to throw myself at this, and it's going to be awesome. And I would always end up in a heap. Like, why didn't that go well? Well, because you don't do this in stages and rest. And have you guys ever had that experience? You're in the middle of a home improvement project or something, and you're just like, I hate this. I hate this. I took a painting class once, and we're painting this little seascape thing, and I'm watching the instructor, and she's awesome, and her waves are great. And I'm doing this thing, and I turn to my neighbor, and I'm like, I hate this picture I'm doing. It is ugly. And she said, put it in the closet for a week, and you will love it when it comes out. And she was right. She was right. I pulled it out. I was like, look what I'm doing. It's awesome. So, you know, as we're in the process of creating our lives, line upon line, it's good to rest. It's good to rest and evaluate and, you know, just take a minute to breathe. And that resting really refreshes us and helps us to stay in the process. Okay. Oh. Do you guys have any questions or any comments or anything? I just don't love talking at people. Is this resonating? Okay. Okay. I love it because, you know, when the Lord talks about line upon line, these are actually seasons too. I keep tipping over. These are actually seasons too. Seasons go this way and they go this way. And to everything, there's a season. Let's see. To everything, there's a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. I learned this is like literal. There's a right time for the right thing. There's a season. I learned that my day had 4 seasons. Have you guys ever thought about your day having 4 seasons? The morning is, what's that? Yeah, spring is short, right? You know, I just learned there was that time that I would honor, what do I want my day to look like? And then create a plan, and then go out into the day. And here's the thing. Well, I love this quote by Elder Bednar. Oh, hold on, not that. So everything is created through 4 seasons of growth and development, you know, like in nature. Okay, and seasons make things go like clockwork. Same thing. Okay, each day has 4 seasons. And sometimes, like your shopping trip has 4 seasons. I mean, you could get crazy. But again, you know, just being aware of it helps you to do better at it until it becomes second nature. Okay, I love this quote by Elder Bednar. Does anybody want to read it? Let's see. David, can you read it?
Elder David A. Bednar, meaningful morning prayer is an important element in the spiritual creation of each day and precedes the temporal creation or actual execution of the day. Wow. Did you teach him this project?
Isn't that cool? He must be a project manager because execution. Isn't that awesome? I mean, there it is right there. I love that. God's pattern of creation. Okay, so here's the thing. Creation doesn't always go like clockwork. Have you noticed? We can actually get lost in the process of creating something. So if I set out to do something, it's not always going to go like clockwork. In fact, it's a lot of times, most of the time, not. I had an experience. I went to the mall on Black Friday. I never do that, but I went and there's people everywhere and there's music playing, probably Christmas music, you know, over and over. And I had these, I went for shoes. I needed 2 pairs. But when you get in there, like, oh, it's so beautiful. Like, you get distracted and you start looking at things and there's shoes everywhere. And I got in the middle of this process. And I could feel myself getting crazy, like, I have to get out of here. But because I know about this, I said, okay, I'm going to put the lids on the boxes, and I took them to the front and said, could you hold these for about a half an hour? And I went to my car, and I got centered. I was like, what? Okay, I got to calm down. I can't hear that music anymore. I can't be around those people. I just need to calm down. I sat in my car and was like, why did I come? Like, oh, what? This is where you what am I here? What does it look like? What does it look like? And I was like, I really only need a pair of black shoes for these outfits, and I need a pair of flats that go with everything. Okay. And then I had a clear picture of what I wanted, and then it was, okay, what's the plan? I was like, okay, I'm going to get the shoes from this store. And then I remembered, because I'm not in the loud noise, that I had a coupon for this other store. And I got the coupon, and I was able to go to the other store, get a deal. So instead of leaving there with I don't know what just happened, I just bought 12 pairs of shoes because I need to get out of there. I had a plan, and then executed. So it just gives you an action step, whatever action step you need to take. And then rest and evaluate. Okay. Because here's the thing. When it stops going like clockwork, what really happens is the creation process becomes a compass. You can get your bearings, and you can say, where do I need to go? I can be in the middle of crazy and step back for a minute and get clear. Or, you can just, or I can be in the middle of the day doing stuff and go, how do I want this day to turn out? Or what's the plan? And God will direct us as we tune into Him. And the thing is, not just for situations like going to the mall or the day or whatever, but for our lives. We can know what phase we need to be in. I remember going to General Conference once. Maybe you guys have had this experience, wanting to be filled. I went to a women's conference, and the first few talks were like this: we can do more, sisters. And I was like, I can't do more. And I'm looking at the exit going, should I leave? That would be so rude. But I was like, I can't do more. I don't want to create anymore. I need to rest. And then the next talk was Elder Uchtdorf's talk about creating and compassion. Do you remember that talk? It was so healing. He just said, we can do things that replenish us, is essentially what he said. And I was like, I am so down with that. I need rest. But, I didn't know this then, but I do now. But sometimes, and I wanted to read that quote by Elder Holland. Do you remember the talk where he said, if we give a message and you're doing okay with that? Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm gonna have to find that one. He said, if you're doing okay with that, move on and find a message that, I don't know where that is. Here it is. I got to read this because this is so great, because we're not always in the place where we need the message that's given. Okay. In the wide variety of sermons given is the assumption that there will be something for everyone. So if you're trying to do the best you can, then give yourself high marks. And when we come to that subject, listen for another, which addresses the topic where you might be lacking. That was so comforting for me, because I'm thinking, I feel terrible for not wanting these messages from our leaders. I wasn't there. But this was helpful. He said, if we teach by the Spirit and you listen by the Spirit, some one of us will touch on your circumstance, sending a personal prophetic epistle to you. Don't you love that? I love that. So great. It was like, okay, it's all right to say, not this season yet, but I will get there. I will do that. Okay, I love this quote too. Michael, could you read that?
We need not worry if we can't simultaneously do all of the things that the Lord has counseled us to do. He has spoken of a time and a season for all things. In response to our sincere prayers for guidance, He will direct us in what should be emphasized at each phase of our life. We can learn, grow, and become like Him, one consistent step at a time.
Don't you love that? Seasons. I love this. This is the message it just changed my whole life, you guys. It really has. It's so simple, but it's so profound. You got it, Rob? Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to summarize here. So the main things I learned were to be still. And as we're still, we can see more clearly and experience more calm. And to be systematic, because as we create systematically, we'll feel more ordered. And then to live in the right season for where you're at, to live in seasons. And as we live in the appropriate season, we'll experience growth. We can be productive, but also rest, which is so important to renewing our bodies and our minds. So important. Well, I don't know. Do any of you have questions for me? Because I've done a lot of talking. Anybody have any thoughts? Because David, yeah.
Yeah, when you were talking about how the world is just go, 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 I have never had a supervisor or a manager ever tell me, David, I need you to take a longer lunch or more rest and come back. That has never, ever happened.
Right.
Maybe you can be that guy.
But you know what the crazy thing is about that is that if you look, and I've done some research on this, should have pulled up there are some really influential people like Atul Gawande. Have you ever heard of him? He's a super amazing guy. He's a physician. He's at one of the big Ivy League schools anyway. Just an amazing guy. But that's what he does. He schedules it in, these phases, rest phases. And Annette.
Sorry, can you finish?
Oh, no, go ahead.
It just made me think of, I took a tour of the building soon, and they said in point back to
Yeah, uh-huh.
my niece's husband is over that. Anyway, he took us on a tour of that, and it's really interesting how they have that set up. In the things that they do for their employees, they have this huge, nice lunchroom, and they have a professional chef that cooks for them. They have a gym, and then they have this kind of like a game room. And they're not on a time clock. And again, they can go to work whenever they want, come and go. They just know what their responsibilities are. But he said they get so much more production out of their employees when they do this self-care. And if they need, because a lot of them are kind of like in a creating process, if they need to go and talk things out while they're playing a game, they're more creative that way. So a lot of those things kind of fit in.
Yeah.
Just not sitting at the desk pounding all the time, but letting things happen more in a. I mean, it kind of in a way seems like, well, that has no pattern at all to it, but
it's actually, it's the rest phase.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you get your best ideas? Really? Is it sitting at the computer? Is it like in the shower or on a drive? It's because your brain has a chance to let up.
Have you found a correlation in time for each of those four quadrants or not? I mean, percentage-wise. So in other words, let's say you're flying rest. Have you found any relationship in percentages of time spent in those different quadrants?
Okay, so this is actually something, I've actually created 4 presentations, and in one of the ones, there is something where they teach you to work and rest, and more like a pendulum. And so there is a percentage for that. It's like 90 on, 30 off. is like optimal, but there are different percentages. But for myself, I just kind of go by feeling. It's what I need, and I will actually feel when I need to move. Like, and you guys probably have too. When I'm studying my scriptures and I'm really into it, after a while it's like, okay, I'm antsy. I got to get going. You know, have you felt that? Like if you're on vacation or something, like, I got to get back. And so for me, I just kind of go by what I feel. I mean, sometimes we have constraints because we don't have all day long to be resting or whatever, but I don't know. I just kind of go by feel, and I have a set schedule that I follow, and so I just, if it's feeling right, but again, if I'm like, in preparing for this, when my head is full of stuff, it's time to rest. And I might rest for 15 minutes, go walking or whatever, and then it just restores my energy. So it really is a life cycle, and if you get stuck somewhere, then there's distress, right? Like if, when a baby is delivered, if the baby's not coming, if the baby gets stuck, there's distress. The baby's got to be delivered. Does that make sense? So if you're here and you're just there, that's really what creates anxiety, is staying there. I don't know if that makes sense. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but yeah.
It's probably different for everyone, I imagine, like how much you need.
Yeah.
Like even though it's like, you think of your days of when you were a mom with a newborn, and like a 20-minute nap is like the most incredible thing. You feel like a new person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was just thinking of a bad example. Did you ever see Seinfeld where George would go take naps under his desk?
No.
Like 4 hours? Sorry,
That's definitely a bad example.
It's a terrible example, but I was even thinking, like, I remember student teaching, and I had middle school kids, and it was tough. It was really rough. And by the end of the day, you know, I'm like 21-year-old, whatever it was at the time. You know, I was like, I'm not a mom. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, this was hard. I just remember I've always loved music, but when I'd go get in my car, I would turn off that radio. I'm just like, I just need peace.
Silence.
Silence.
Yeah.
And you talked about breath earlier. I do a lot of Pilates and yoga.
Oh,
so I love that
yeah.
workout.
Yeah.
But I notice in the car when I'm really stressed out, I will recognize, like, I start to take these breaths, like deep breaths, hold it, and let it out.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how refreshing that is. That it's my physical body's natural way of dealing with
Yeah.
what I'm dealing with at the time.
That's so
But I
great.
love that rest period. And I think for everyone it's probably different.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
For your mind, and then, like, I love that Elder Bednar thing with the prayer in the morning, because I think when you take those quiet moments, that's when the Spirit can,
yeah.
and then
Yeah. And help you plan and give you specific action steps.
you are confident.
Yeah. Isn't it great? I mean, so yeah, like we're project managers, and then there's the program manager, which is over all the projects, and that's Heavenly Father. He's going to help us do this creation thing. I love that. Anybody else? Anything to add? Okay, so yeah, like I said, this has been life-changing for me, and really over the course of 9 years, I'm like, okay, what was that thing that I did? And I needed to articulate it for myself, and then I would read in some book somewhere that, and the Spirit would say, do this, try this. And then I'd read it in some book that they're doing some Harvard study about rest, and the evidence keeps coming that this is everywhere. It's everything. And if we can just master this process, we'll learn to be like our Father in heaven. We'll feel more joy, less stress, less anxious. Okay. Well, yeah, just miracles. And since I actually am no longer well, I kind of am a bull in a china shop, but I am an organized bull in a china shop now. My life's just going a lot better. So I want to invite all of you to just try this. Try practicing be still. Try practicing just living your day through 4 seasons. Try that and see what comes up for you. See what the Spirit teaches you, because what the Spirit has been teaching me is it's opened up the scriptures for me. It's helped me understand the temple better. It's crazy how Heavenly Father's creation process is everywhere. Okay, so I promise you'll begin to feel more peace. You'll begin to feel more productive, just more settled. It helps so much. Okay. Well, you guys have been fabulous. Thank you for coming. This has really been like a 9-year in the making thing, and it's just helping me to get clear about what's helped me. I've actually have 4 more presentations. I'm calling it Seize the Day, Season the Day. There's so much to learn about project management, about creation. And so we're going to be back here on Friday, this coming Friday. And you are all welcome to join us. There is no obligation, but we're going to be here, my family. This is going to be like a glorified family home evening. And I think we're going to use this baby too, and maybe even this, because it's great. It feels great. But anyway, I thank you guys so much for being here and letting me do this. Let me share it. I know these things are true. I know they are, and they've changed my life. So I say that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. You guys are great. Thank you.